A common source for phosphorus is colloidal clay rock phosphate. This is used by a lot of organic gardeners as a source of calcium and phosphorus. But it's not considered in my book an organic gardening product, and I'll show you why in the rest of this video. So let's start with a load of colloidal phosphate. Notice how granular it is and the dust. That's what I was worried about. How radioactive is the dust, and is it a danger to the gardener? This is a strip mine in Florida. Colloidal phosphate is mined in open pits. Quite an ugly feature on the landscape. But this is where the radioactivity begins, in the mine in Florida, the source of 25% of all the world's phosphorus and 75% of the U.S. use of phosphorus. So I took my sample to Radioactive Materials Licensing Services, Sebastopol, California.
Oh, really?
And they went down and got a bunch of organic rock phosphate from Florida.
That's what this is from.
And they brought it up and they put it in a concrete block building. And I noticed it was radioactive. Of course, then they put it out in the fields and then plowed it. It kicked all the dust up too.
That's what we were wondering about, the dust.
Yeah. Also, probably in the building, the level was higher because there'd be some radon gas released as well.
Oh, right.
That would build up. That wouldn't be, building up in the outdoor environment.
Right.
Some people have theorized that the lung cancer, one of the factors in lung cancer development from cigarettes, is the polonium-210, which is an alpha emitter that's in the organophosphate.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Fertilizers sticks to the sticky leaves of the tobacco.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's definitely elevated. Yeah, I'm getting like 120 counts per minute.
What's background?
Background's closer to 30 or 40. So if we put this in the same,
at least here, you don't know what it is in
yeah,
your neck of the woods.
and anytime you go closer to the ground, the level goes up too, from naturally occurring radioactive stuff in the ground.
Yeah.
And then of course everything that's alive has potassium in it, and like 1 out of every 10,000 potassium atoms is a radioactive form.
Oh, really?
Called potassium 40.
Huh.
So even if you take somebody's cremated ashes, it'll show levels comparable to this, and maybe even a little higher because it concentrates the potassium into the ash.
Huh.
So you can see we're at about, it's going to vary. Radiation is random, and so we're getting about 40 counts per minute there, and we went up to 120, so that was like 3 times.
Is that anything to be concerned about?
Just depends on who you talk to. It's naturally occurring, and granite. I see countertops like that.
Oh, really? Granite countertops?
Yeah, and the granite up in the Sierras, places where we hike and camp and everything. So it's all, it's natural. But then, of course, radon gas in homes has been identified as a potential cause of
But as a gardener, do you think it's worth wearing one of those masks that people use for dust?
I probably wouldn't, but in some ways I'm not always that cautious. I think as far as the radioactive level, I probably wouldn't worry about it.
Okay, good.
Not only are the open pits in Florida ugly, they're finite. Some people predict that the U.S. supply will be gone by 2035. World supply depleted in the next 50 to 100 years. To make colloidal phosphate, the raw material is treated with sulfuric acid. A byproduct then is generated that's radioactive. In Florida, there are billions of tons of radioactive tailings like those in the picture here, and the state generates over 30 million tons every year. Or then the stuff is loaded into sacks or put on trains to be transported all the way around the country, but only 3% of all that volume or weight is what the gardener wants, and as little as half of that is available in the first season. A better opportunity for phosphorus might be bone meal. At 15%, it has 5 times the amount of phosphate compared to colloidal phosphate. And you get a little bit of nitrogen as well. Whatever your phosphate source, consider sprinkling on top of the sod before making a sheet composting, well-layered garden for a no-till process. Or mix the phosphates into a hot compost pile to help release the nutrients. Or put them in a bin. Better yet, why not grow your own phosphate using buckwheat? The annual buckwheat makes a great green manure. You can seed it out, let it grow to 4 to 5 to 6 inches tall, till it in, and you'll be adding a concentrated form of phosphorus. Buckwheat gathers more phosphorus in its roots and foliage than many other plants, so why not just grow your own? Why do I consider colloidal phosphate a non-organic product? Because it's low in phosphorus, uses fresh water and acid to process, is slightly radioactive, produces radioactive tailing piles that are mined for uranium when the price gets high, high carbon footprint due to the freight and trucking expenses, and it's better to use homegrown phosphorus by growing buckwheat. For more information, go to my website and check out all my books. You'll get a lot more information on how to work with phosphorus in an organic garden. Better yet, make sure you check out my latest book, Sustainable Food Gardens. It's a summary of my life's work as 40 years growing edible landscapes and organic gardens.